Cam Fowler gets traded to the St. Louis Blues along with a fourth round pick. Anaheim gets a second and a prospect. Can we just talk about the last few trades, man? Like obviously Cam Fowler specifically, veteran defenseman. I mean, there's been rumors he's been wanting out for a while. The Ducks have been trying to figure out a landing spot. They retain, I think, 33%. So for the Blues, I mean, there's probably a lot of like differing perspectives because they have older defensemen as it is. We don't really know if they're a competing team or not at this point. Obviously, they bring in Jim Montgomery. They've been better lately. I mean, they've been pretty good. So, what's your perspective on the trade? I'll give my thoughts, and for you to shoot back. Like, I think this is good for Anaheim in terms of just kind of getting like moving on from that situation. But I don't mind it for St. Louis. Like, they're pretty thin on the left wing or left defense, and they lost Krug for the year. I mean, what do you think about the Fowler
Yeah,
trade?
I just looking at I mean it looks confusing from an outside perspective looking at the Ducks getting in Truba, taking the whole contract and then shipping out Fowler, but if you look at them, they want to get Lacombe, Mintyukov, and Zellweger playing every night, and with Fowler, you can't get all those guys in. So I actually like what they're doing on defense. If you look at they got Gudis playing with Lacombe, and they got Truba playing with Mintyukov. Like you want to have veteran presence with these young guys. So I don't mind what they're doing on defense. Yeah, and it kind of made sense to ship out Fowler being on the left side there. Um, but yeah, taking on the whole Truba contract, I don't know, but
Oh, I thought that was the weirdest thing. But on your point, the three young guys you just listed are all left shot. So I can understand the perspective bring in Truba for the physical aspect on the right. It was weird. I was at the game in Toronto against Anaheim, and they had the lines all jumbled, but also Fowler was still in the lineup. So I think they were just trying to figure out maybe the other two pairs until they facilitated the Fowler
mhm.
trade. But no, you're right. The perspective of holding on or bringing on the whole contract of Truba and then also to retain on Fowler, I feel like they didn't really use much of their leverage there, at least with the Truba situation.
I don't think they're in too much of a spot to be worried about the cap in the next like this year and next year. So I don't think it really matters, but definitely is like upsetting as a fan of like another team saying like, oh, the Rangers get bailed here by getting rid of a whole $8 million contract. But yeah, I don't mind it. From the Blues perspective though, I mean they're like you said, their defense is aging, so it's kind of confusing, I guess, with Krug out. That kind of had a hole on the left side and Letty's hurt as well. So um yeah, I don't know. We'll see what Fowler can do. I mean, these analytic pages have been posting some pretty damning evidence about him falling off a cliff. So, but he's been good his entire career in like not a very good team other than his young years. They were pretty good with Perry and Getzlaff, but
Yeah.
yeah, who knows what they can do? The Blues are like a low key, like very underrated team. They've been good since they got Montgomery, like you said. And I think if they were in the East, they'd definitely be in a playoff spot. But I mean, the West is just they got like four teams to jump to get into the playoffs. I know there's a bunch of time left, but it's going to be tough. But if they're in the East 100%, they'd be in the playoffs, in my opinion.
Is that more because of the Central? I feel like the Central's just like really competitive. I don't know like if I'm as high on that second half of the Pacific, but yeah, I mean I'm with you on that Central Division. I think like when you're looking at what Winnipeg's still doing, I mean it shows pretty clear as day that I mean Nashville's got like very I would say like very own internal issues, but like it's not easy playing in that Central Division. Yeah, on my perspective for Anaheim, going back to that conversation, I think yeah, Fowler, you kind of just had to move on from the situation. I don't know if it was the best situation considering they had to retain. I'm surprised that no other team was going to take a shot at that 6.5. Just, I mean, what you said, obviously the analytical folks will talk about like how he's just going down a steep hill, but at the same time, he's played with Anaheim. I feel like a lot of the passion's been lost with the guy. Like, I mean, there was conversations he didn't even want to show up for training camp this year. So, I mean, Riley, how many times have we talked about like hockey's like a mental game as much as it is
Oh,
in your physical standpoint? So, I mean, again, who knows? I don't know what Fowler's going to look like. I mean, it looks like Montgomery's putting him next to Parayko to start. So again, maybe that's a bit too of a like older, slow pair. We'll see. But I mean, it's got some size. Like Fowler's 6'4", Parayko's 6'5". I mean, in terms of two guys that have the experience, uh, we'll see. I also do think that Anaheim is probably going to continue to like float those older veteran guys out to sea. I mean, John Gibson being one of them. And I don't know if you saw, but there was like rumors that for a while Gibson would never wave to Canada, but that maybe this year it's changed to a team like Edmonton, who honestly, like if the Oilers get a goalie and a goalie that's consistent, like I mean, they've been showing their kind of cup contending ways more lately than before. And Hyman, I think, is now like a point per game in his last eight. So I think when you look at that perspective, they're rolling. If they could get a goalie, like Stuart Skinner's still under a 900 save percentage. Like that's just not going to get it done. And then your next best option after that is Calvin Pickard. I love Pickard, but you can't have that guy as the guy to fall on and rely on in the playoffs. So I think Edmonton for me, especially considering guys like Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner are struggling as well. Maybe they move one of those two contracts. I know they just signed them, attach it with Stuart Skinner, Riley, and send those guys with maybe a pick, prospect, whatever it is, to get John Gibson in Edmonton. Because I think at the end of the day, even Anaheim's also got veteran, low cap options that a team like Edmonton or other contending teams can target, and then Anaheim can kind of soak the cap the way they did with Trouba, right? So, um, are you kind of on the same wavelength there, or do you want to see John Gibson go to your Buffalo Sabres, or what?
No, no, we don't need one. But UPL's between the pipes, he's doing good. I do like that mock trade just because I mean, if you're looking at a comparable, like Colorado just sent their starting goalie, who's been terrible this year, to San Jose and attached a couple picks to it for Blackwood. So I could see it. The thing with Gibson is like, does he just love Anaheim or something? Like he has been in the rumors for like years now, like at least 3 or 4 years, and they
Oh,
haven't moved
probably
him out
more.
yet. And but Doe Stahl looks so good this year,
Yeah,
man.
so
So
good.
so I like now would be the time to do it. But yeah, I don't know. I could see him going to Edmonton. That would make a lot of sense. If they can fit him under the cap, like
Yeah.
you said, like you'd have to get rid of Skinner and stuff. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I
Well, my
do. I
reasoning
can
on
see it.
that is like Arvidsson's got like a $4 million cap hit or 4.5 around there. Stuart Skinner's like 2.5. Jeff Skinner's 3. If you combine one of Skinner or Arvidsson with Stuart Skinner, that right there matches up the on the cap with John Gibson. So I'm just saying like the math is mathing there. And also if you're looking at the value, like I'm sure Anaheim would look at it as okay, Stuart Skinner's still got some untapped potential. Maybe in a low key market he could figure it out. And then Arvidsson or Skinner are middle six guys. And then Edmonton's probably just gotta entice them to do it, which would be like maybe a couple picks. Like if I mean they just got a second and third from the Holloway and Broberg stuff from St. Louis. Maybe they flip one of those picks, prospect. I don't know. I think it makes sense for both teams.
No, it 100% makes sense for both teams. I don't know if I would, if I was Edmonton, if I would give up Skinner because then again, you're having a backup in Pickard and Gibson's getting older. He's got some injury issues. Like, so then you're in a situation where you got to start Pickard. Like, I think you would have to keep Skinner as a safety net still. And I believe they still got faith in him. He rode him, not he didn't ride him to the Stanley Cup Finals, but he was capable of taking or helping being a part of a team that goes to the Stanley Cup Final. So I don't know if that's a guy you want to get rid of, but you might have to for the cap, obviously.